I am now going to go off camera and off mute and set up Facebook Live.
Very good. And am I
she's
mute or
disappeared.
no?
No, you're not. I can hear you.
Very
But has
good.
we've lost her, right?
It looks like yes, but I don't know how. How does that
No, it's okay.
happen?
She may have just dropped off because of her internet connection.
I see. Okay.
So we'll wait for somebody else to come in. Because with Facebook Live, if you don't spotlight you as the host, then people come in and they've got all sorts of expressions on their faces and stuff, and it looks really weird.
I know what you mean. I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing.
Yeah.
Very good. So we shall wait for our next customer,
Yeah.
our next audience member to come. Very good. Get my notes here. Hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to go offline. I'm spotlighting you,
Okay.
Sunny.
Very good. So hello, people. I think I can start chatting with our in-house guests who have just arrived, and we will be on Facebook Live in a minute. But welcome, guys. It's another Thursday in the Northern Hemisphere and Friday morning in the Southern Hemisphere. And we are just going to be jumping in here in a second. I think I shall start in just a moment. I think I shall wait until Facebook Live comes to us, and then we shall just really go into our lovely introduction and all that stuff. But again, for you guys who are in our sort of group, I'm Sunny Chase, and I've done this a few times. And I've had Mynoo on my show before, Solutionary Sundays. And so I'm really grateful to be here tonight and holding down the fort for us. So we shall be Facebook Live in a sec. I think we might be on. Let us see. Not quite yet. Not quite yet. Very good. We are almost there. It is that time. 30 minutes past the hour, wherever land we are in, isn't it? So I think I'm going to start our introduction right now, and we shall be going into Facebook Live in a minute. How exciting for us. I'm just going to actually sort of read what Mynoo gives me to say because I think it's so powerful, and who am I to improve upon it? So today, the human miracle, the 12 building blocks that we are now in the season of going into, and we are at number 9 of 52, emotional well-being. And Mynoo this very night will be sharing the 7 issues in our tissues that prevent or accelerate emotional well-being. She will also be guiding us on using this understanding to refresh, resurrect, enrich, and invigorate our natural state of wonder. As a direct result, we'll experience a complete transformation in our health and vitality. And one thing I love about this for myself is the concept of the issues in our tissues. I feel like sometimes I'm emotional about things, or just feeling sad, or feeling kind of weirded out. And I'm wondering why in the world that is. And we are now welcoming our Facebook Live family. So hello, Facebook Live family. My name is Sunny Chase. I'm the host of Solutionary Sundays and the host for us tonight with Mynoo Maryel. And we are going to be diving into the issues in our tissues. I will just also repeat this a little bit so you guys know on Facebook Live that we are at 9 of 52 in the Building Block series, and we hope that you actually join us for all of them. The emotional well-being, and Mynoo Maryel will be bringing us the understanding to refresh, resurrect, enrich, and invigorate our natural state of wonder. As a direct result, we will experience a complete transformation in our health and vitality. And I really, really believe that by getting kind of digging in and moving around in the issues in our tissues, we shall really be able to make some action in that. And this season of lights that we're all in, with Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, Diwali, all the seasons of lights that are coming our way, it's the perfect time to be dealing with our issues in our tissues. So without further ado, I shall be grateful and happy, and I'm sure we all would be, to bring in Mynoo Maryel. So welcome, Mynoo.
Hello, hello, Sunny.
Hello,
Some,
hello.
sometimes Zoom and Facebook add new features, and then what worked before doesn't. And I have to figure out live.
Yes, so we're just all gathered now, though, aren't we? We're just all together and ready to blast off.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Okay, and Sunny, you recall this is a little bit different than all of the other sessions. So you are representing an archetype of humans. So anything that comes up for you, it's something that is also on other people's minds. Okay,
Mm,
so just allow yourself to, interrupt and ask any questions that you may have.
I've got my
Great.
pad. I'm ready to rock.
And in this one, you as a host, it would be great for you to also summarize what was covered and what you discerned from it. And you're great at doing that with your show and
Mm,
everything. So we are very
thank you.
fortunate to have you hosting us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So welcome, everyone. I am just going to I was telling Sunny earlier on that one of the things that happens here in this particular section is that it is literally like a live transmission. Um, so I know what this whole 52 part series is about, and I know the sequence of it, which Sunny, Justin, Dea, they know as hosts what's to come, and what is actually to be covered. I only receive it literally the night before. Um, or sometimes I don't even actually get it before I go to bed. I get it first thing in the morning. And then I just show up and allow the transmission to be shared. Um,
Mm.
so that's really what we are going to be doing here today. So I have some notes that I'm going to put up on my screen. So if you feel my eyes are going in a different, not necessarily looking at the camera, it's because I'm just referring to my notes a little. So let's begin. This one is in the context of the 12 building blocks. We are looking at full spectrum well-being, and this one is focused on emotional well-being. What is interesting to me is emotional well-being as a building block, and we're talking about 12 building blocks. So in this particular one, there are going to be a set of three, I believe, on emotional well-being, and this is the first of the three. And here, I mean, first of all, this phrase "issues in your tissues," like issues that you may have, don't go anywhere. And I learned this from a dear friend, Mary Malloy, who is a pioneer of biodynamic medicine, because I learned from her that issues that you may have about a person, about anything at all, they don't go away. They remain in your tissues. You've heard me already say that we have 124 trillion cells. Each cell has got a multitude of tissues. So this whole idea that any issue that we may have actually sits there in our tissues itself is alarming, actually. And then there are these 7 issues that stick to our tissues, and the way you choose to deal with those issues is going to determine whether you multiply those issues or you're actually able to release them and therefore reclaim the full space in your tissues and give the tissues a chance to regain their health and vitality. And like I say here, return to your natural state of wonder. Let's look at what is an issue, first of all. It's an important topic or a problem for debate or discussion. Now, the importance of a topic for debate or discussion, the importance of a problem that you feel calls for some attention, and you haven't been able to let go, even if it may have been suppressed for a long time, it is that has an energy signature of resilience. So the issue itself becomes, something which has got the power of resilience. And this issue starts to reside in your tissues. And tissues, in dictionary talks about them as any distinct type of materials in animals or plants. And it has got specialized cells. And these cells have their own byproducts that they create. So as a result, any issue that resides in your tissue can continue to regenerate. Even after the cell is departed, the energy signature or the weightage of the issue that has been residing in the tissue remains. And it only laces a new cell that is born, that is birthed. But because it is an issue that is worthy of debate or discussion, that energy signature lacing starts to embed itself in our cells. And that's where the issues reside in our tissues and they don't go away. So let's look at these 7 issues. Let's look at the first one. The first one is really to do with what is emotional and what makes emotional distinct from mental. Emotional is about feeling. It's about feeling. So what we feel about a particular incident, what we feel about a particular person, what we feel about a particular story that is being talked about, it's that feeling. If it is a feeling that you can simply observe, it passes away. But if it is a feeling that calls for some debate or discussion that you actually do not have for whatever reason, so it becomes like an unsaid communication. That's when your tissues start to hold on to it. So I often say to people, when I'm working with this, I often say to people that, look, use the power tool of acknowledgement. And as you're using the power tool of acknowledgement, you start to feel that feeling that you may have. And it is that feel of that feeling is what you are acknowledging. I had an incident that took place at my home in Delhi before I got here. A dear friend of mine had traveled from London, and she was when I was in Mumbai, I met her, and she looked so ill, like really ill. I couldn't bear to see her like this, like in a matter of a year. To me, it looked like she had aged 15, 20 years. And she, like, there was a constant frown on her forehead. She was, taking like 6 nebulizers every day. And Mumbai was not that polluted. It was polluted, but not at all as much as Delhi was. And I had to get back to Delhi because I was going to come to Dubai, and I was going to be in Dubai for a couple of months. So I said to her that, look, why don't you just fly with me and just stay at home for the next 7 days before I leave for Delhi, and you can come back to Mumbai, and I'll just take over and give you whatever it is that you require, in terms of full spectrum well-being. So physically, your diet, your what you drink, the sequence in which you drink it, the kind of physical activity that you do, the kind of mental um, state that you're able to get into, so you can relieve any of the mental anguish that you may have, and address any emotional issues that come up. And we'll just do this for 7 days. I'll do the bare minimum I need to. I'll just cross off my schedule and just be with you. But I do feel you're going to recover fully. I don't. This is not your time to be so ill. We got her to do all of her blood reading. Now she came to Delhi, and within and we literally only had 5 days, but there was some to and fro and a little bit of delay in her coming. So we had 5 days, and in those 5 days, there was a whole regime that we followed. Um, and at the end of 5 days, I got her to do her blood parameters again. And before, she had her kidneys were leaking protein. She was severely anemic. The vitamin D deficiency was extremely severe. Vitamin B12 was quite severe. Number of hormonal imbalances, bad cholesterol was high, triglycerides were high, uric acid was high, blood pressure was out of control. She was taking 6 nebulizers every single day, and and on the fifth day, when we took her blood parameters, kidney functions normal, liver functions normal. Vitamin D went up from 5 to 25. 30 is normal range. So in 5 days, this has been the shift that took place. Vitamin B12 normalized. Her blood pressure became like that of a young person. And her nebulizers went to nil. She didn't need any of them. And remember, we were in Delhi. Pollution levels are very high, like 470 when it should be 70 or less. Air quality index, that is. And we were not going out. All the doors and windows were closed and sealed. We did sun gazing for 10, 12 minutes every single day. We did not open the windows. It was done through the glass. And there were various other things that we did. Her diet was completely different. Out of the 5 days, 3 days, we were completely salt free, which allows your body to release. And of course, she entered a container, which was, really uplifting spiritually. I have my crystals, I have my paintings, I have my wonderful singing bowl, which I bought from Phyllis, that is there. So all of those things were making a difference. It was really powerful, the transformation that we saw in her. What happened on the last day was this. I'm talking about this feel of feeling that I live in a duplex. It's like a penthouse thing. So you go up and down. The bedrooms are upstairs and the living room is downstairs. And we were doing a shoot. We were filming one of the masters for my app, the full spectrum living app called Jego, Joy, Ease, Grace, Omnipresence. And this friend of mine, now she's feeling really strong energetically. She says, oh, I want to actually, record some of these things that Mary is saying. I'm going to go get my iPad. She goes up the stairs, and now you can already imagine what I'm about to say. She's coming down the stairs, and before she starts the second flight of stairs, she trips, and she becomes like a ball, and she's like rolling, somersaulting. She does 3 somersaults, and comes crashing down the stairs. Um, I was like in another room. I heard the thud and thud, and I realized as a human being, and energetically, I like put like a big gel pack. So she didn't come completely crashing down. Her fall was a little bit mitigated, but still, she was just lying there in a heap. And fortunately, this master who was filming for us, Mary Malloy, biodynamic medicine, is designed for moments like this, where your body has a severe shock and you go into that crazy freeze state of from the shock. And the freeze can be misunderstood as the person has fainted or something else, but we didn't know anything could have happened. It could be her neck is broken, spine's broken, a whole variety of things could have happened. And anyway, Mary guided us on, really being with her, and then she used her colonic stethoscope to establish where the shock was residing, and she released it. And then we lifted my friend and put her on the sofa. And then by the next day, her pain and all of that had disappeared. I did some work on hairline fractures that I had seen. So we got the X-ray people to come in, and she was totally fine. The pain was there the next day, but there was some bruising, but nothing as crazy as it could have been. And she was able to fly to Mumbai the next day. Her blood pressure, her sugar reading, so those are the 2 things that skyrocket when your body is inflamed or when there is any major tension. Her blood sugar was normal, and her blood pressure was absolutely normal as well. Now, I was sharing this story of what had happened to our friend with my sister, who is in Dubai, that this is what happened. And what happened with my sister was that she developed a pain after my phone call with her. Her right arm started hurting. And through the night, the pain became so severe, it spread throughout the arm. And then from the back, it went all the way down the back of her spine, down her legs, and all of that. Like next day, she was barely able to move. Now she's in Dubai. We are in Delhi. This friend of mine who'd fallen down the stairs is recovering and recovering really nicely. And her blood readings came back, and they were all like, wow, this is amazing. What has happened? But my sister, on the other hand, is like, she's had to be rushed to the emergency. And they're like, what has happened? She's going through MRI scans and all that stuff. And then finally, and I couldn't speak to her. So finally, I was able to speak to her. So she, she got what had happened, and she was like, I don't know, I'm in so much pain and stuff. But by the time I got to Dubai, because I was also traveling that day, by the time I got to Dubai, my sister, it was as if nothing had happened. She was totally fine. She went to the doctor. The doctor said, look, we are not finding anything. There's nothing wrong with you. There must be some form of an emotional distress you might have gone through. And it's this first issue in our tissue, which is she felt emotionally, it's like, oh my God, what's happened? And it is a huge responsibility when someone in your care goes through something like this. So she's like imagining all this stuff and feeling, and then giving meaning to that feeling, and then feeling the meaning of that feeling, and then giving meaning to that. That's what is going on. So really all that I said to her when I was able to speak to her is, just feel your feeling, relax from a mental point of view, just relax and just feel your feeling. That's all you do. Just feel the feel of those feelings, and just feel where in your body you feel them. And she was said to me, it was as if a doctor was working on her body. As she was feeling the feel of her feelings, it's like she would feel the feel of her feelings in her head, and that pounding headache would release. She would feel the feel of a feeling on her neck, which she just was not able to straighten. It's like I've slept the wrong way, and it would release. It is so powerful. issues reside in our tissues. And she literally went through her body like this. So this was a new thing that I saw that I was doing with her. It's not like acknowledgement. It is literally you are presencing yourself fully and simply feeling the feel of those feelings. And feeling the feel of those feelings, so the emotional well-being is the well-being of how you choose to feel your feeling. If you just simply allow the feelings to come, your mind immediately goes, is this something that's threatening the survival or not? And it immediately starts making meaning of it. But if you train yourself that I feel and I feel the feel of this feeling, you will find the good feeling really blossom and multiply and amplify. The bad feelings simply dissipate. Simply dissipate. It's pretty phenomenal. Really phenomenal. Sunny, I don't know if you have anything that you are picking up or sensing that you might
Yeah.
want to bring in.
Yeah, I mean, I want to also say the power tool of acknowledgement, I think, is so powerful. I feel like I want to use that in my life in a lot of places. I think that's a mantra, a bumper sticker, a t-shirt, because I think that that's a place where when we really do allow ourselves to acknowledge that so much, I mean, even when it's something with someone else or with ourselves, and with this concept of taking that then into the feeling of the feelings, or feeling the meaning of the feelings, I think that's so incredibly interesting to me. It's like, whoa, I never really put that together that way. And to understand that we really do hold so much in our tissues. And of course, I know that we're going to be talking about it as we go forward, but again, maybe trauma when we were 3 and 4, or those kinds of things that get stored. And I'm really grateful to know that we have the ability to be able to regenerate that once we let it go. It's sort of like then there's space in the cell to be able to perhaps receive more, whatever you're going to tell us that it receives more of. So that's
Yes,
sort of where I
yes.
am at this point, and I have a lot of notes on my page.
So, the key thing here is that our cells, I mean, each cell has an originating intent. And what happens is when you load the originating intent, unbeknown to us, with baggage, and that baggage could be, us suppressing our feelings, or it could simply be just lots of overthinking. When you load it with baggage, then the originating intent connection is diminished.
Mm.
So when you actually remove the baggage, then the cell returns to its originating intent, because originating intent is like a core level programming that's there. It doesn't go away. But if you've got layers
Mm.
and layers and layers of it, it's not able to, operate as efficiently. So just imagine, I often use the analogy of we used to call them the Russian dolls, where you have a doll within a doll within a doll, and they would bob backwards and forwards, and you just push them and they come back, or push them and come back. And but if you push it and you put a weight on it, it'll still want to come back. But that's the originating center of
Mm.
gravity that's inbuilt in it. But it won't be able to come back as fast, or it may not be able to come back fully. So when you've got issues in your tissues, your tissues have got that load on them.
Is that
And
sort
the
of
more
oh, I was just going to say, is that sort of where inflammation comes into play?
it is that. Yeah,
Mhm.
it starts to, and that's what happens. Inflammation swells up, right? And I mean, this is my work in progress. I'm really working at it. My inflammation marker is where I'm very focused. And they have transformed. They have transformed. They've gone from, they should be like less than 1.3. or less than 1, and mine used to be 54 and now they are 1.3, which is really
Ooh.
great. I'm going in the right direction. But yeah, that this loading
Yes.
causes that inflammation to occur. Now,
And the heaviness. Yeah.
yes. So really what happened there with my sister, so here's what happened. When she goes to the doctor immediately says, okay, maybe a frozen shoulder that has suddenly got aggravated. So they do that MRI scan. And so actually, it's not a frozen shoulder. There is a little bit of deformation of the bone, but it's not a frozen shoulder. But that can be very easily rectified. But you have suffered a sudden advent of massive inflammation. So the bone that is sort of slightly curved, which would do nothing for you, you can keep going. Because of the inflammation, it is actually pressing down a nerve. And what caused that inflammation? This news. And the news, my friend was already better. She was sleeping like a baby. And this friend of mine from London who had the fall and who had all this massive recovery health-wise as well, she often, I mean, she lives alone in a really humongous home in London. She often would sleep with the light switched on and the TV running just to feel like she's got company type thing. But she was just sleeping. The lights were off, and there was complete peace and quiet in her room. But I didn't get a chance to say all of that to my sister because I still didn't know what the state of her health was. So, boom, her inflammation grew. And then it grew as she started giving meaning to the feelings that she was feeling, and it started imagining all sorts of things that actually didn't exist, you know. And it was bang in the middle of the night, so she's not even calling me up. She's just, starting to go deeper and deeper into that excruciating pain that she was experiencing. And of course, when she followed this, feeling the feel of her feeling, that's it, nothing else. The meanings that she had attached to those feelings started to dissolve away. And hence, when she described to me, she would go into her head and she would just go feel the feel of the feelings that's giving her this throbbing headache. And it would be like as if it just disappeared. And she said, it's not that I can describe the feeling. I just focused on feeling the feel and realized it actually was nothing. My head was throbbing. That was it. There was no feeling to it, and it just dissipated. And that's what was happening. Like literally, the cells were returning to their originating intent. Inflammation was being released and released and released until she had fully recovered. And all she was doing was dissolving the issues, and her tissues were responding. I mean, this was a stark example of how it can go either way. So let's look at the second issue in our tissue. The second one that has a direct impact on emotional well-being in terms of making it like depleting it or transforming it. The second issue is that of trust. Trust, like I talk about love as the amplifying, is an amplifying frequency. It amplifies. And just because of the vibration of love, when you apply the love vibration to anything, it comes with it. Like it's literally laden with love. And that starts to amplify. So if you're feeling really distressed about anything or anyone, you can bring in the vibration of love. You don't even have to process it. You just simply say, okay, I'm bringing in the vibration of love. And you'll start noticing that amplification that starts to take place of this positive vibration of love. Trust as a frequency is quite different. It is a frequency of putting a stake in the ground. Now, what that means is it anchors as a stake in the ground wherever you apply the trust frequency. So if there is a breakdown of trust, and it could be, I can't trust my body anymore. Like this is the thing that that got my sister started. Oh, you know, I have reached 60. I can't trust my body anymore. And it's like anything can just set it off. And that emotion anchors itself. It's like, okay, trust, right. We've got to make sure that she's right about this, that she can't trust her body anymore. And, you know, even as she's attempting to sleep, all of this evidence of how she can't trust her body starts to amplify like crazy. And then she goes, wow, well, you know, this is serious. I really can't trust my body. Like, I don't know how it's going to react. I don't even know what I can do about it. The body goes, yes, you're right. Let's make sure you get this. And that's what starts to happen. Now, what she did when I said to her, feel the feel of your feeling. And the first thing when she saw the throbbingness of a headache just calm down, she was like, oh, body can heal itself. I can trust my body to heal itself. And then she continued, and as layer after layer, by the time she got below her upper back, she was completely anchored in trusting her body to heal itself. Because she'd already gone to the doctors and there was not a lot that they could do. So we can give you an injection that will be a strong painkiller. But I mean, then what will happen after that? But we don't know the strength with which this thing might come back. And by that time, I was able to speak to her, and then she had attempted this, and it had made a difference. And off she went. She anchored trust. The interesting thing about the 7 issues in our tissue that I'm talking about here, and I get very excited about this, the same issue can exacerbate the situation, and it can completely alleviate it. It can get rid of that situation. That's the exciting part of it. So trust, like the key thing here is, whatever may be going on in terms of your well-being, first of all, know that there are 7 pillars to full spectrum well-being. So physically, if your body is going crazy, there are at least 5 other ways in which you can return yourself to their originating intent. We are best off allowing our body to implement what it's masterful at. And it is masterful at returning to the originating intent of its cells. We are already designed as a mechanism where cells are birthed constantly and cells are dying constantly. The average age of our cells is, 18 months, no older than that. The issues in our tissue are way older than that. But they only, with new cells, they simply lace them. And if we can start implementing some of these things. So you can, and I do that. I trust my body to reclaim itself and resurrect itself by itself. All that I am to apply my conscious awareness to is to remove any loading that I might have done. The loading is not physical, it is often mental and emotional. It's only mental and emotional. Mental is thinking, thoughts, and emotional is feeling.
Mynoo, may I?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say
Yeah.
to go deeper with trust, because as soon as you said trust, like just everything shifted with me. And I was thinking, wow, I know that that's a big deal for me. And it's not just trusting my body, all of these things you're saying. It's also sort of trusting the future, trusting my footsteps into the future, even in an hour or in a year. Just with things being so, I just feel like, just as we all know, so much is moving around. I feel like the tectonic plates are moving. So can I trust myself in my universe, in my small world? when I get in my car, even just, ooh, can I trust the people around me? And so I feel like that plays a big part. Like I just getting chills. Like that was a big one for me when you mentioned that. So just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you can see, Sunny, how it would be an issue that sticks in our tissues, right?
Yeah.
And has a direct
Mm-hmm.
impact on emotional well-being,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, trust in relationships. There's so many times, so much
Mm-hmm.
baggage we take from one relationship to another, or we choose not to have any more relationships, or we just somehow convince ourselves that that's not my thing anymore, or we, have rebounds left, right, and center, and a lot of variety of reactions happen. It's a trust. We don't trust ourselves, or we don't trust, or we trust men to behave a certain way. We trust women to behave a certain way. Trust, trust, trust.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get the innate vibration of trust, is stake in the ground. Who is
Mm.
impacted? Whose stake in the ground is it? It's yours.
Love that.
You know?
And also, yeah, the future, I mean, when it even has to do with anything that we're going, as I say, in the future, in 5 minutes from now, or any aspect of our lives going forward. And I do feel like that also so affects us physically, because I mean, even as we're going, I mean, sometimes that, that sort of like part of our body wants to go forward and part of it doesn't. It's sort of like we can give
Yeah.
ourselves our own trauma or our own shock, like your
Oh,
friend falling down the stairs. That was her not trusting her feet, I think, and just, and just being off balance and then just tumble. So, yeah, so I just feel
yeah.
like trust is a big one.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because she's tripped a couple of times in the last year. Like
Mm,
all of a sudden she's tripped. And then they went for a scan and they said, oh, there's a little growth in her brain. And she just, so like when she asked me, I said, look, we all have growth that happen from time to time, and it's just a matter of our choice of lifestyle. Those Many of those growths disappear, because if these growths had continued, we would have more things that are not our physical body. So just relax about it. And she trusts my tuning in, and she was cool about it. The moment the tumble began, and she was saying this, when the first tumble began, she immediately goes, oh my God, I actually can't trust my brain. There's something's off here. And I mean, like, I do have rails, and there are, things that she could hold on to, but she just went into lack of trust, anchored
mm.
that, and lo and behold, she tumbled, a couple of times, which you're right. It was like the trust that, there's something wrong with the brain, so she'll never find it. She'll never find what she could hold on to. So yes, it's a big issue in our tissue that can take us off mental well-being, off our emotional well-being. And what it can also do is to bring it right back. If you
Mm,
go back and re-engineer, re-engage with trust. In relationships, we can bring in trust by knowing that you can trust yourself,
mm,
that you will survive. I've stopped the survival conversation. I talk about I will thrive. I thrive no matter what. So survival is taken care of. So if there's any emotional stuff, because there are things happening in the world that do take me off my center in terms of emotional, um, you know, well-being, and I apply all of these things. I didn't know that they were the issues in our tissues that I'm going to be sharing with all of you. So let's look at the next one. I mean, these are such. I mean, this series is so rich that
mhm,
I do get carried away by each one of the seven. Let's look at the next one. The next issue in our tissue that takes us off emotional well-being, but it's also one that can actually restore and resurrect us into our innate emotional strength. And this particular issue is regret.
mm,
Regret. I mean, this is a very big one for me. For the longest time, for decades, I would just feel that, if only, this if only conversation was a deathly trap. And it was only a deathly trap because the underlying emotion there was regret. Regret as an issue keeps the story of that which you regret about in place. And regret is one of those, it's one of those regenerative emotions, which basically means if you regret something, you'll find something else happens somewhere else, and then regret will come in, bouncing and dancing, and then you'll start regretting that. And it starts to multiply very rapidly. So for me, this is a long time ago, this is me doing benefit of hindsight. When I moved to the UK, just because of the kind of experience I had in computer technology, I managed to get very senior positions. Because in those days, the only way you could reward a technical person was by paying them more. The only way you could pay them more is if you promoted them into a job that most of the technical people really hated doing, which is management. They loved being the technology buff, but not necessarily a manager of people. Anyhow, so I, at a very young age, got promoted into a very high level, like got into the C-suite in my early 30s. So, operating with people who were more in their late 50s, early 60s. At that level, I was, just because they needed to pay me that much to retain me. So I used to find it very frustrating when people would say, um, you know, I tried my best, couldn't do it. Tried my best, couldn't do it. I had no sympathy and absolutely no empathy to that statement. And I would really regret, having given so much time and energy to this person. And then very soon, out of the 34 members in my team, there were like 2 or 3 left. Everybody else had a nice dollop of regret plonked on top of them that, I regretted that they were in my team. Now, the amount of emotional distress that distrust brings is like beyond your comprehension. And where does emotional distress go? It literally, first of all, it lodges itself in your colon. So you have all sorts of digestive issues. But the colon itself is connected to every organ in your body. So where emotional distress lodges itself in your colon, it has a direct impact on that organ. It puts pressure on that organ. So physical well-being is immediately and directly impacted by emotional distress. Distrust is the seed that plants emotional distress. So when you bring trust back in, it's like the weed killer of distrust. Mm-hmm. And distrust of all kinds starts to just simply disappear. So the thing to do here is to look at what is it that I can trust? In what can I trust? Now that has changed from time to time. Before it was like, I could always trust to find an optimistic perspective on anything. I could always trust me to do that. So the moment I brought that piece in, when I felt a lot of regret, I could see regret dissolving away, rejoicing and celebrating something that actually has delivered result, however small it may be. That starts to bring the trust back in. There will always be something or the other that's worthy of celebration, regardless of whatever is occurring. And that's certainly something I used during the Corona times, when all sorts of news was, being experienced by each of us. I always, that was the genesis of the birth of the miracle lens. Whatever happens, your heart is beating, it is singing. There is something there that it wishes to celebrate. It starts to dissolve distrust, and trust starts to come back in. So look and find for yourself, what can you always trust? Again, then don't get attached like a codependency on that, but keep it in a realm of knowing. In the context of this series, The Human Miracle, the fact that our cells, birth and rebirth, and I know that they're actually quite young, I can at any point in time release old stuff. So the next round of birthing of cells will not have that energy signature.
Ooh.
And that may take 9 months. Yeah, that's a huge revelation.
So I want to mention regarding regret, because that's a big one for me too. I'm definitely the proxy for tonight. And some of you know I was in South Africa a few weeks ago with the Bushmen. And the reason I was there was really to just gather their wisdom. And I was able to do that through an interpreter. And I asked them about regret. And the answer that I got, I was so grateful for, which is that what they said to me was that God always gives us another chance. And that just, like, it can make me cry right now. So what I'm thinking about when you're sort of mixing in trust, regret, distrust, melting away regret, I'm thinking about the opportunity, taking that Bushman wisdom, and it's sort of like, can we be creative with our regret? Like, in other words, yes, we missed that opportunity, or we didn't do that thing with our kid or Christmas, or, whatever it was. But all the chapters are not written yet. Like, we do have the opportunity. And it may even be paying it forward. It may be someone who's passed away or something. The idea that we can be, as the Bushmen say, and God gives us another opportunity. So I just want to sort of throw that in our mix right here with the feeling of creativity, of like, let's activate our creativity in that area of regret.
Yeah. And doing it this way, there are many people here who've done the journey into miracles. In the journey into miracles, I talk about regret as a sergeant major. So the fact that we've all continued to live beyond regrets that we might have had in our life, if we go back and analyze it, there is some propulsion that regret does. And so for me, when I did this body of work, I realized that regret opens the doorway to miracles for me. It was through my experience and deep dive into regret, I realized actually whatever I may be regretful about, every time for me to get out of it, I have found what's miraculous, what's making my heart sing. So if regret shows up, it's just reminding me, you've lost your connection to miracles, Mynoo. Cross the threshold and join me. Miracles are everywhere. So each one of you will have your own, So regret is an issue in our tissue that could destroy your emotional well-being, and regret can completely have you blossom out of whatever it is that you're regretful about, and you can just bloom away.
Ooh,
So let's look
thank
at the next
God.
issue.
Yay.
Let's look at the next issue in our tissue. The next one is guilt.
Mm.
And, guilt is another issue in our tissue. Oh my God, having been a single mom, and I know that some of you have been single moms, something that, like, to me, it was like I was walking around and with this underlacing of guilt as an issue in my tissue. It's like, oh, I missed my child's first steps. I missed being the one that heard him spell his first word. There's so many things to be guilty about. And all that does, it is greatly disempowering. Guilt, innate vibration of guilt guilt has a voracious appetite. And what does it feed on? It feeds on your vitality. The guilt literally steals the vibrancy from your vitality. So, as an issue in your tissue, if you don't address the guilt that you are carrying, even if it is a subconscious level of guilt, I didn't talk about guilt. I wasn't that kind of a mom, and yet I know there was some burden I was walking around with. When I looked at it, it was guilt. Guilt very soon gets followed by regret. When you feel guilt, I regretted I made the choice of, not taking a long sabbatical when my child was born. A whole variety of stuff that starts to very quickly, add up. And all it's doing is loading your tissues with more and more issues. So then your cells, which are made up of a multitude of tissues, it's hard for them to go back to their originating intent. The guilt, how do you get rid of guilt? It's simply acknowledging all that you feel guilty about. I do this just as like a sanity check now. But when I first did my guilt stock take with the purposes of acknowledging all that I feel guilty about so I can unconditionally accept all that is, there was a long list that emerged. And, but now when I just do it once a month, just as a sanity check, if there's anything that I'm guilty about that shows up. And I dissolve it simply by unconditionally accepting all that is. Guilt also is a sergeant major, as many of the miracle journeyers know. And whether you know it or not, you can certainly unconditionally accept all that is once you have acknowledged everything that you feel guilty about. And you will be able to step forward without any guilt. There is no point in keeping guilt as an issue that can latch itself on a multitude of tissues. The next issue is shame. Now, shame is something that isn't, it's not natural to be shameful. Just hold on a second. It's too early in the morning and there's somebody at the door. So I just need to go and check that. Okay. Shame, we're talking about another issue in our tissue. A lot of what I'm experiencing now, when I engage with this whole idea of shame as an issue in our tissue, a lot of it is lineage, culture related, variety of things. And I find it like, I remember going to Germany. As many of you know, my children lived in Berlin for a long time. Now they are here in Dubai. There's the shame of the Holocaust and what occurred there. It was like, oh my God, such heaviness in the tissues that we carry. It doesn't serve anything loading our physical bodies with that. Again, the power tool of acknowledgement is the way to work with that, with this particular issue. I'm very aware of the time, so I'm going to keep going forward. So use the same approach that you used with guilt. Acknowledge anything and everything, that you may feel that experience of shame around. For me, it would be like, this has occurred in my watch. I may have had nothing to do with it, but it's occurred in my watch. How what is it that I'm doing vibrationally that is allowing something so shameful to happen in my country or in my community or in the world? Until I realized that it doesn't actually serve that issue at all. And it absolutely loads my tissues. So then I have even less vitality to take any particular action. And mentally, I start being impacted. And emotionally, of course, I'm depleted. So unconditional acceptance by acknowledging fully what you feel shameful about, and then choosing to take some proactive action is the way to move forward with this particular issue. The sixth one is pride. Pride also is an issue that resides in our tissues and has a direct impact on emotional well-being. Feeling that somebody else is being appreciated more than you, your pride could be hurt. Or alternatively, you want to exercise your pride and you want everyone to know that they should be proud of you. So you start, showing off more than what others are. On the other hand, you actually can plug into your own magnificence. Acknowledge that which you are proud of in terms of your own presence, your own accomplishment. And when you feel full of your own accomplishments, you are able to release lack. And you're then able to connect to other people's magnificence and share that pride. So pride itself that could be a double-edged sword. And the final one is it's about a decision. It's a decision around suffering. The issue in our tissue is when we make a decision of suffering, pain is the decision, pain is the justification you see. On the other side of that same coin of suffering is happiness, which also is nothing but a decision. And when you take the decision of being happy, joy is the action you seek, and emotional well-being starts to thrive and regenerate itself. So if you find yourself complaining about pain here and pain there, physical or emotional or mental, or hurt here or hurt there, pause. Know that you've made a decision of suffering in this particular moment. And any moment you can change your decision because you decided that, and switch it to, I choose to be happy. And then you start seeking actions that give you joy. And that completely releases that issue from your tissue, because it says to you, whatever happens, the decision and the decisive authority is you. That choice lies with you. You reclaim your choice and you exercise and express your choice with practical action anchored in the ground. Over to you, Sunny.
Wow, this is one of my favorite ones we've ever had. I feel like maybe it's just because we're all evolving and your audience and your people are evolving, so you're able to bring so many more profound concepts to us. The concept of returning ourselves to their original intent, I think, is something that, again, that's something we should put on our mirror and remind ourselves all the time. And again, all of these 7 elements, I know that we have to actually roll, so I can't do as much of a roundup as I would like, but I just feel so grateful for this, because I felt every single one of these. I do every single one of these. And I really appreciate the aspect of being able to move, sort of the guilt, understanding it, feeling it, and acknowledging it, the shame. It's the natural or unnatural, aspect that we bring in of our lineage, pride, and to be able to really get to humility and being able to know that that's really such a great place to get to, and know that we rock and we're awesome, and also having that humility so that we all win, and nobody's getting through the door first, or we're not getting enough light shined on us. And then the decision around suffering and emotional well-being. So a quick wrap up, because we've sort of run out of time, and I'd love to be with you another hour, but I know it is that time. And so thank you, bless you, and thank all of you for being with us this day and this night, wherever you are. And we shall see you next week at the same bat channel, same bat time. And again, Mynoo, just gosh, thank you personally for such a time together with
You're
all of you
welcome.
guys.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you. Really great. You're a great host. Thank you so much.
My
Namaste.
pleasure.
Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.